back, everybody. My name is Tim. This is another Real Ideal Gear Review. Today we're going to be looking at the Casio GA B2100, also known as the CasiOak. And this is a watch that is very popular on the YouTube network, and a lot of people have been talking about it. I'm going to take a little different view of this, and I'm going to talk about the tension between the form and function piece of this watch. It's a G-Shock watch. And when you look at a lot of the G-Shocks that Casio puts out, probably I would say the majority of G-Shocks that Casio puts out, you're going to find the G-Shocks to be like this industrial, tough, exposed pushers that are, all these kinds of different, like tactile friendly, parts to the watch. Then you've got, just all kinds of different gauges and numbers and functions that go along with it. This watch is different. It takes a different approach to a G-Shock. It tries to reform it through that royal oak component. And when you look at some of the specs on this, I'm going to go through this from kind of the form and function perspective. And I'll be honest with you, that the thing that I don't like about the CasiOak or the GA B2100 is that form over function priority versus the function over form priority that the other watches typically have, like the Casio Square, which is kind of the subdued version of the majority of the G-Shocks as well. So that's going to be kind of the theme for this video. We're going to go through a little bit of the specs, but we're going to kind of go through that tension between these two, where on the one hand, something really bothers me. At the other hand, it's like, well, that's kind of how it works when you have a form over function priority. So we'll go through the 5 things we typically go through, which are size, fitment, finish, accuracy, then legibility, lume, and light. It has all 3 of them. So we'll go through all those things, and then we'll go through kind of the positives overall, the negatives overall, some uses for it, and then the rating at the very end. So let's get started with size. So the size of this watch, the proportions of this watch are fantastic. So the height above the wrist is actually it's thinner than the Casio Square. It's thinner than my Casio triple sensor Pathfinder. So in that sense, you've got a watch that really tries to stay close to the wrist. The diameter of the watch, of the dial, of the case, is also something that is, smaller than most, especially G-Shocks. G-Shocks tend to be these gargantuan type cases, all this protective material around the pushers and around the case and the crystal and things like that. But this is a slick approach, and I say slick because the diameter of this is just a little bit bigger than the Casio Square, but it's less than the Casio Pathfinder triple sensor. One thing I want to mention about slick, and that is slick is as opposed to not slick, is the way that the pusher is designed. It's very close to the case. So in law enforcement, when we wear our protective vest and vest carriers and all the gear that we wear up front, you can go slick or you can go with everything up front. It's super easy to have everything up front: mags, radio, cuffs, all that stuff up front, easy access. At the same time, getting in and out of the patrol car can be a hassle because your belt can wrap around a mag, and you're trying to find the better spot for that because the belt comes across your shoulder. So that would be a non-slick approach. But guys that wear their vest carrier slick and they have more stuff on their belt, kind of the same thing. This is where they're keeping the stuff, the buttons, recessed in. They're keeping the bezel protectors down. You don't see a lot of things around the edges of this watch that protrude out and catch on things. They also might be a little bit more exposed as a result. Your crystal may be more exposed as a result. But at the same time, it's a more slick approach to a G-Shock. So that's the thing about this. It's a G-Shock. So you got your 200 meters of water resistance, your impact resistance, your battery is great. This is a tough solar Bluetooth, so the battery is a non-issue. The battery's always being charged up by the light that's around us, around me when I'm wearing the watch. I'll put them in the window sill during the times where I think I need to charge it up a little bit. So it's just a great approach of slimming things down, keeping things really efficient, making this watch slick. And that's what I mean by slick. So the size of this watch is great. Lightweight, not an issue. Slick case design, slick bezel protector up here, just enough bezel protection up here to really, kind of manage the potential scratches. It's a mineral crystal like all the Casios are, but I think it's a great job as far as that goes. Fitment, typical issue with fitment, you've got the holes I think are too far apart, but you do have the ratcheting system when it comes down to the keeper. So you've got these grooves on the inner part of the strap, and then you've got the same grooves on the keeper itself. It prevents the keeper from sliding around on the strap, which is a great function. You find those not just on G-Shocks, but you'll find those on other watches as well. Finish, typical Casio finish. You've got the matte black resin case finish. This is a modular case, so you can take the case off, the strap off. These are quick release straps, so you can take these off, and I think you'll find that there's all kinds of mod kits that are out there for this watch. The dial, let's talk about the dial, because this is where you're switching from kind of that function piece to the form side of things. You have a sunburst gray or black dial on the inside. And if you pay close attention to the dial itself, it kind of wraps around the hour markers. The hour markers are kind of a dull gray. You've got the blue Bluetooth writing on here. You've also got a red mode indicator on the 9 o'clock side. You've got two great white hands for the hour hand and the minute hand. I think that's one of the great features. It's such a simple dial, and yet extremely easy to read as a result of the design of the dial, of the finish of the dial. So even the outside part of this, the bezel, you know, when you look at the outside part and the top, the 12 o'clock part, it says G-Shock. You know, it's written in gray, very subtle. And what else do you have at the bottom? Protection at the bottom. Again, very subtle, harder to read. It doesn't stand out very much. Again, trying to keep things subtle, slick, a little bit more dressy, a little less G-Shock, you know, industrial, oversized, down to like what is necessary on this G-Shock. All right, so the finish I think is fantastic, fantastic finish. The buckle is great. It's got a heavier duty pin buckle system here that I think is awesome. So overall finish on this is excellent. Accuracy, no worries. It's a quartz digital watch, analog watch, Digi-Ani watch. So no issues on the accuracy. Remember, it's tough solar as well, so that means the battery's always charged. Your quartz movement's always going to be working. It's just going to be good. The Bluetooth piece when it comes to accuracy. You get the Bluetooth app on your phone, connect this watch to your phone, and you're going to have an accurate watch all the time, so long as your phone is charged and on you and connected to this watch, okay? So as far as like accuracy goes, I think that's the second best way of doing it. The first best way, number one way of doing it is that atomic timekeeping mode, which a lot of other G-Shocks have, like the Square. That I think is number one. Bluetooth is number two. Quartz movement's number three, and then your really high accurate movements are great after that. So accuracy not an issue. Legibility, lume, and light. It has all three. Legibility, awesome. You look at these hands. You look at the contrast between the hour hand, minute hand against the dial. Even the red mode indicator hand is great. There's just not a lot of other colors on the dial to distract you from where the hands are, which is awesome when it comes to telling time on the analog side. There's a big downside though, and that is the digital display sucks. I mean, it is bad. It is so small. It's one of the smallest ones that I've had, and I can barely read. I can read the seconds, the time, sort of. And it's too bad because the function of the digital display is not one that's easily usable. I could put my glasses on, read it fine, no problem. When it comes down to a guy like me who has tired eyes, you know, older eyes, it's just not as user-friendly that way. Now, keep in mind, this watch is about form, not about function. And I have to remind myself of that. They didn't make this digital display to take over the watch, the face of the watch, or the dial of the watch, so that you could read the time more easily. This is about design. And so the digital display is going to be kind of in the background when it comes down to this. The analog piece to this is going to shine, and it does. When you look at this watch, it is all about the analog display, okay? And that's what the AP Royal Oak is all about. I mean, it's a very simple design, and it's been around for decades. So looking at this watch, I think I have to remind myself, back off a little bit. This is all about the design, and function is second. Okay, so as far as the legibility of the digital display, it sucks, but that's kind of how this is supposed to work. Lume, the hands, hour hand and minute hand are lumed. It's adequate. It's below average. It's below good. It's adequate. It lasts, I don't know, 15 minutes or so legibly. It fades pretty quick. But this really isn't necessary because the light on here is awesome. Now, I'm going to go back to the lume for just a second, because if you had better lume on the hands and just a little bit of lume on the 12 o'clock indice, you'd have a watch that you could orient on the nightstand when it's laying sideways on your nightstand next to your bed in the dark somewhere. You know what the time is because the 12 o'clock indice would be lit up with lume, and then your hour and minute hands would also be lit up with lume. So it doesn't take much to improve the legibility and the lume together for a watch like this. Now, The reality is you have a light on here. The light is awesome. It lights up the entire dial. It lights up the display on the digital display. It does an awesome job. And because it's tough solar, I'm not worried about battery life going down as a result of using the light a lot for a particular situation, okay? Put it back in the window, charge it up, put under a bright light, charge it up, you're back in business. So to me, this is a non-issue when it comes down to the light. It's a great, great light. So legibility, lume, light, it's all good. So what is the summary on the positives? It's a well-executed design. It's a clean design. They really did take a G-Shock and clean it up and simplify it and really go after the form. The function takes a back seat. It has the function. It has the stopwatch. It has the timer, 5 alarms, world time. It has all of those features embedded. Matter of fact, the app that you have with this watch, you can set a reminder, and there are 5 reminders that you can put on this watch, which is awesome. It's as close to a smartwatch as I'm willing to get at this point. And so there's a few functions in here that are great, and I highly recommend the Bluetooth version over just the Ani-Digi version. The Bluetooth Solar version is awesome. I really, really like how it's all put together, and I'm getting used to the fact that this is a form over function watch. The hand designs, I love the hand designs, the indicator, the mode indicator, all of those are great. You have the Bluetooth, we can set the time, and you can set the time through the watch, or you can do it through the app. It's easier to do it through the app. You're clicking and it sends the information to the watch is updated, and you've got all your settings ready to go. So the app honestly really is a nice touch, and everything but the reminder, I believe, everything but the reminder can be done through the watch. So don't worry if you don't have the Bluetooth set up on your phone or the app on your phone. You can do all but I think the reminder piece on your watch. You have modular design to this. This is another plus. You can mod this watch to the nth degree. I'm looking for comments from you guys on what to do with this watch when it comes down to modding the watch. I'd like to kind of go with a metal rubber combination. I'm not a huge fan of the G-Shock. You know, they've got this ripple on the strap here for a little bit of give if the watch ever were to get snagged on something. I'm just not a huge fan of that. And also the fact that the strap doesn't completely close closer to the case as it moves around, or doesn't lay completely flat. I'm not a huge fan of that. So modding is a great strength for this. I'm looking for some help on that as well. Put that in the comments down below if you would. That'd be awesome. You've got the 200 meters of water resistance. You've got the tough solar, but you know, it's a G-Shock. And that's the thing. They maintained the G-Shock specifications, but they really went after the form. I think, I can't say this enough, I think they did a great job. What are the downsides to this? Display is too small. The buttons are recessed and kind of useless actually when it comes down to my ability to grab the watch and press these buttons. I really have to finagle my finger into that recessed portion to get to the button and press the button. It's like the Casio Square, same thing. I'm just not a fan of that. I've never been a fan of it, so it has nothing to do with the sleek design here. They've already been using that on the Casio Square since the, mid-80s, early 80s. So not a fan of that. Holes in the strap, I'm not a fan of. The lume, you know, if they'd have put a little bit of lume at the 12 o'clock position and better lume on the hands, I'd be all in on the lume as well. What kind of watch is this? This is more of a dress watch. Could you use it for outdoors? Could you use it for work? Absolutely. But this really is about more of that form side of things, kind of office jobs, office manager jobs, floor manager. Is this something I would wear lawn mowing? Probably, but I wouldn't wear it landscaping. I'm not sure this is something that I would wear hiking. I think there are better watches for that, for hiking, because I really need to have better access to that digital display. That's where the function really starts to kick in. Like, you really need to have those functions available. So to me, that's where the function starts to play in. But when it comes to the form side, more the dressy side, office watch, semi-casual, casual, even maybe semi-formal if you change and mod this to have a little bit more of a formal look to it, I think you could definitely pull it off. It's a little tall, but at the same time, I think you can pull it off. So it's a great watch. Overall score on this, 9.4. And I say 9.4 because if I had actually put function as a priority, this would be in the high 8s for sure, because I would be dinging all kinds of stuff. That display issue is a major issue when it comes down to function. But it is not a major issue when it comes down to the form side of things. Is this a recommend? I highly recommend this watch. This is a keeper. I'm going to be doing something with this as far as the modding go. I'm looking for some input from you guys on that, but this is definitely a keeper. I highly recommend this watch. So buy with confidence. Find the kind that you like. I like the positive display on the digital display. So there's not a lot of those out there. There's only a few of them out there. So I would highly recommend this version because the negative display, I'm not a fan. I see a lot of folks with negative displays. They're like, I don't really like it that much. But positive display has always been a good keeper. So there you go. My name's Tim. This has been another Real Ideal Gear review. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you guys later.